Coming up on this week's episode of TechSNAP. Dan's back from BSDCan, and he's brought with him some peanut butter, some new tapes, and a new library that's the source of all truth. Then we've got the latest on Britney Spears' new career. Yeah, that's right. She's controlling botnets through Instagram comments. And Dan teaches us about steganography and how it recently helped catch an NSA leaker. Then we've got your feedback, a riveting roundup, and so much more on this week's episode of TechSNAP. Welcome to TechSNAP, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly systems, network, and administration podcast. This episode was streamed live on June 13th, 2017, and is episode 323. This episode was brought to you by our three fine sponsors, DigitalOcean, Ting, and IX Systems. My name is Wes, and joining me this week, why, it's that conference organizing, BSD bootin' beast of a host. That's right, it's our friend. Welcome to the show, Dan.
That's me. Hello, everybody.
Welcome back. You've been on the road. You finally made it back to your hometown. How does it feel?
It's hot, but it feels good.
Excellent.
It'd feel better if it wasn't 95 degrees, but it's not that bad.
How were your various trips?
It was one trip to Ottawa, two conferences,
I see.
and
so they
a
were
week of
packaged
work in
right
between.
there together. That's nice.
Yeah. The two conferences are both held at University of Ottawa, and they're held there because that was the cheapest venue to downtown, where then everyone could just go out in the evening and then come home at night without taking a taxi or a bus or something like that.
Sounds well organized.
It is well organized. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Anything new or any findings you wanted to share from those awesome events?
New. I brought back 4 kilos of peanut butter.
Wow.
Kraft peanut butter.
May I ask why?
Because you can't buy it in the States.
Oh, I did not realize that.
I have a feeling I grew up on Kraft peanut butter. You've probably never heard of Kraft.
No, I don't think I have. No.
Before. Yeah.
But it's good then. Or you like it.
I guess it just reminds me of childhood or something. It is very familiar and it's very yummy.
Yeah, totally. I have those foods. Yeah, just it's associated with a time and a place, and it brings you to a certain mood.
I brought back a whole lot of empty LTO tape cases.
Nice. Awesome.
I brought back about 20 DLT4 tapes that someone didn't need. Someone in Europe didn't need. They brought them to me.
That's convenient.
And
so
I went to my old
and gear swap.
Yes. And I bought 3 Carlton shirts, like a sweatshirt, a rugby shirt, and a T-shirt. Carlton's the university I went to. And I think this is my first time back on campus in many years.
Oh, that's lovely.
It was neat to walk around the tunnels and see the computer science building that's now totally different. And now they have a building just for human computer interface.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So
the alma mater. That does sound. That sounds really nice.
It was good, but it's also good to be back home.
Yeah. Well, now that you're back, I guess that means we can dive right into our live TechSNAP. What do you have for us now that you're back? I've been sitting here in anticipation because I'm sure there's been a lot going on since the last time we did an episode, so there's a lot to catch up on.
I don't know if we'll ever be able to catch up on it, but we're going to try. So, one of the first rules of journalism is to validate your information. You just don't take one person's word for it. You get it verified. You validate what they're saying. Otherwise, you risk the chance of telling lies.
Right. You need at least some confidence in the story you'll be printing.
I can't remember the actual term used for this. Something your sources, or I can't remember what it is. But here's a case of where they took a document that had been provided to them confidentially and that outed the whistleblower. And people may not be aware that this sort of stuff is possible, but I do recall reading about this before. And coincidentally, just before I read this article, I read an article about how to get around the watermark that they're putting on the documents.
Oh, interesting.
So, the way this article starts off: when reporters at The Intercept approached the NSA on June 1st to confirm a document that had been anonymously leaked to the publication in May, they handed over a copy of the document to the NSA to verify its authenticity. When they did so, the Intercept team inadvertently exposed its source because the copy showed fold marks that indicated it had been printed, and it included encoded watermarking that revealed exactly when it had been printed and on what printer. So, to jump to how they are able to do this is color copiers can print like a little timestamp. It's not in letters, but it's sort of like it's almost like a barcode, but it's not a barcode. It's more like an RC code, but it doesn't look like an RC code because they print it on white paper with yellow ink, and it's very faint. But if you look at it under the right light, you can see it and you can read it. And it can hold things like the serial number of the printer, the date it was printed, the time, and that's enough to tell you who printed it, because many printers nowadays will have a log of who was using the printer at a given time. And even if it doesn't have a log in the printer, your system logs would tell you who submitted a job to this printer over the internet at this time. Or even if it's a photocopier and you use a photocopier, you scan your badge or something like that and you get to use a photocopier. So in this case, the article shows the watermarks that were in the image, and they're kind of hard to see. I think they've blown it up and done it under a different color light in order to see it. But it's obvious when you see it that it is actually little coded bits. And when you read it under the right light, it comes out to say that the printer's serial number was 535218, or it might have had a prefix of 29, and it was printed on May 9th at 6:20 a.m. Now, there's some other stuff in there about column value and column 15 value and stuff like that, but I wasn't sure what that meant.
I can certainly see how this would be handy for, debug or tracking information.
What are you debugging?
I mean, internally while you're working on, if you're sending different print jobs through and you're testing printer calibrations or other systems.
But that's not what it's for, though. It's specifically to identify leaked documents. When we get to the next article, you'll see that some printer manufacturers have secretly decided to collaborate or put these things in. And why would they put them in? Because someone asked them to put them in. I can't see this as being a feature for the buyer of the printer, unless, of course, you happen to be a very big company that wants to keep track of such things.
Maybe an enterprise use case or something like that.
Mm-hmm. But no. Again, it's just, here's a way to track who did this, who did that, and what. So the watermark shown in the image above, which is an enhancement of the scanned document, were from a Xerox DocuColor printer. Many printers use this or similar schemes, printing faint yellow dots in a grid pattern on printed documents as a form of steganography. We'll get into what that is. Basically, that's encoding metadata about the document into the hard copy output. Now, researchers working with the EFF, you should donate to them, have reverse engineered the grid pattern employed by this class printer using the tool ARS and others determined using the tool. They haven't actually. EFF have reverse engineered it and created a tool. And using that tool, they've determined that the document was printed on such and such a date and such time. So because the NSA was then able to look at their own audit logs, they narrowed it down to who this person was. And they went to them and said, did you do this? And they said yes. And unfortunately, it wasn't good. So if you decide that you want to be a whistleblower, what do? Do you print out the document and then do this? Well, no, it turns out that there's a way to protect yourself against this. And it turns out that this tool came out directly to protect whistleblowers against hidden printer dots. And
interesting.
There are two ways of doing it. One is to print the document in black and white.
Okay. So it's only, I guess, right, it has to rely on color there to hide it.
Because yellow will get translated to white and white on it. You would think that they wouldn't print white. Well, if you're printing in black and white, you can't print white.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
The other thing, the other thing that they're doing is they're actually developing a tool which will strip metadata from a PDF.
Oh, that's awesome! So you can,
including this sort of information.
So you could print it out and then scan it and then purify it or whatever. Interesting.
So he was working on a method of improving the security of leaked documents by removing hidden dots left behind laser printers, which are usually used to watermark documents and track down leakers, which is exactly what we talked about. And his work was actually inspired by the case we just talked about. Now, ironically, this project is managed by First Look Media, which is the parent company of the news organization that outed this person in the first place.
Interesting. Wow.
So here is where they say, the black and white conversion will convert colors like the faded yellow dots to white, and that'll never get printed. And the purpose of this new tool is to suppress the dots left by a laser printer. So really, what I've learned from this article and this article and the previous article is that if you do need to print out a document that is very sensitive, don't wind up folding it. Just keep it flat, because that fold in the paper, when you wind up photocopying it, shows up in the photocopy. And then if they come to your home and they find this document, they can prove that the document you have at your place is a document that was photocopied. Because this is what came out. They were talking about a fold in the paper.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And because they saw the fold, they knew it had been printed elsewhere. So then they looked on the photocopy to find the dots. And the dots proved that it actually was printed at the NSA at this time in this place.
Then they could identify who printed it.
And based on that they found the whistleblower.
Wow. Boy. It's really, it just really highlights how hard it is to move about our modern digital world without leaving tiny, invisible traces of yourself, even where you wouldn't suspect it.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I'm not really sure the best way to get around it, except being aware of things like that. It's like, was it something, there's another way to do this. Take the document, read it into OCR, optical character recognition,
mm-hmm.
and then print that. But then that's very difficult. You're not presenting someone with a document, are you? You're presenting someone with a transcript of a document. So it's a little more difficult to follow through that way.
Right. At that point, it's almost, it's almost only as good as a transcription of the document or whatever. So
yeah.
Boy, that's funny. It's kind of low-key techniques here.
Instead of having the audio tape, you only have the transcript, and it's definitely not as good. Now, following on from this, here's a list of printers which do or do not display tracking dots. Now, don't use this because this was last updated. It was added in 2015, and the list is no longer being updated. In 2017, it appears that all recent commercial color laser printers print some kind of forensic tracking codes, not necessarily using yellow dots. This is true whether or not those codes are visible to the eye and whether or not the printer models are listed here. This also includes the printers that are listed here as not producing yellow dots. So buy a black and white printer.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you remember, you must have read old crime stories about typewriters.
Yeah, sure.
They could track back that the letter was written on this type of typewriter, and the J was slightly broken, so that let them identify that it was it matched this typewriter that was in the suspect's home and stuff like that. This is about the same thing.
Mm-hmm. So if you want to send something securely, you're back to black and white printer or piecing letters together from a magazine like a serial killer, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Kidnappers did that, didn't they?
Kidnappers.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not the best if you really want to keep something secret from identifying you. But yeah, don't print it on a color printer. But I imagine that the majority of enterprises have color printers nowadays.
Yeah, big multifunction color printer units. So something to be aware of.
Be interesting to see. I'm looking through for Brother. Yes.
Right, I was just thinking about Brother as a good black and white printer brand.
Oh wait, did they list it? Yes, they did. And I'm looking at the color ones. I don't have the color ones. Mm-hmm. But yeah, all these manufacturers have decided to do this. And I would be interested to know whether or not they're doing this because they want to help their customers or because they've been asked to by various government agencies.
It also makes me curious, they apparently have not been able to find a way to, do something similar, obviously not with yellow, but that makes me wonder, are there other attack avenues available to black and white printers that maybe we don't know about?
Yeah. It'd be
a lot more difficult, obviously.
It wouldn't be too difficult just to alter. Oh, no, because the dots are bigger. I was thinking of pixels on a screen, just slightly make one dot slightly less black.
But I suppose that you're right. It probably is the vast majority these days of the printers they're worried about probably are, color ones or ones that comply with this program. So too late.
Yep. What I find is interesting about this list is that some manufacturers are stating that these printers do this, and some are not. Like even within the same model, even within the same brand, they don't always reveal that they're doing this. Yeah. If I was whistleblowing, I wouldn't be printing out the document at work.
No, exactly. I mean, there's that angle as well that it's, yes, it's very interesting technically how this ended up working out and how they determined, they got a hold of the document, they were able to analyze the copy of the document, determine these things. But from the other end, you're right. Like I would almost suspect that, in most places you have to submit printer jobs, maybe authenticated or through the domain or something like that. And then there's already a record that you submitted this print job and it went through.
Imagine you had it on a thumb drive. You took that out from work because in some places you're not allowed any thumb drives or anything like that. But right. Imagine you had it on a thumb drive and you took it, say, to your local copy shop to get it printed. And unknown to you, they printed it on a color printer. It came up black and white. And you used it, and then it tracks you back to there. They check the security cameras and bang, you're
done.
caught.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Well, some people will say, well, maybe you shouldn't be stealing documents, but...
And, by and large, that's probably true. But there, as we have documented on this here show, there is a time and a place for these activities.
Yeah, if you're revealing illegal activities...
Yeah, turns out that there's a public interest in these sorts of things.
Yes.
Perhaps not always, there's... this case in particular maybe talks a little bit about that, but it is always funny how it, it highlights something we hadn't talked much about. I guess that brings us back to stenography in general. Did you want to talk more about that?
Yes, it was years ago that I heard we're going to have another Oh yeah. There is another link in here about how they wound up hiding messages in pornography.
Nice.
Basically, they captured a known terrorist, and on this laptop they found a porno video. And within that video, they discovered 141 separate text files. Things like future operations, lessons learned, reports on operations, stuff like that. So I've heard of this before, where basically you have a photograph, you go in and you flip one bit in every pixel, and that becomes your message. And so whatever the value of that pixel is all the way through the photo, that becomes your message. So your first 8 pixels have a full byte. Now, it's kind of obvious when you look at the photo that something's been done with it when you compare it to other photographs. But the beauty of it is you can just wind up uploading images to any number of social media websites, and everyone else that has to read the message can also get the message through social media websites. And there's no way to track who's looking at this. It's not like you've emailed them or anything directly. You just posted it and someone else has read it. Mm-hmm. And when it's in amongst all that noise, there's no way to track one person to the other.
Millions of GET requests for this one random image, that's been CDN hosted and distributed. And
Yep. And in the show notes, you'll find a link to a photograph. When you look at the photograph, you can see all this little noise, all these little artifacts left over from the steganography. But this is just a rough version of steganography. You can get much more elaborate ones that it doesn't really show. Like look at the sky in the first photo compared to the sky below. It's a solid color all the way across in the bottom photograph. But in there, you can see this sort of noisy bit. Mm-hmm. It's almost as if a photograph is half downloaded. Remember those days when the photograph used to display on your in your web browser slowly? You could see it unfolding as it downloaded it.
Oh, the dark times.
Yes.
Before broadband saved us all.
Now, I remember hearing stories about steganography.
Say that 6 more times.
Yes. In photos 5 or 10 years ago or something like that. And I remember talking to someone whose job it was to find these people, and they were saying, yeah, that's astounding. I don't know how we can deal with that at all. But yeah, it is sort of weird that something like that can be so obvious yet so easy to do. Like, hiding it in photographs seems to be the best way to do it, because you don't have to do it in every photograph. You don't even have to decide in advance where the photograph is going to be.
Right. You can have telltale signs that, process whatever photographs, and then if you find it, then there you go. You get the information.
Yep. Later on, we'll find a way, we'll show another way that they were using photographs for a different. In fact, it's the next article. Once we get to that, there's a command and control bit for some bots about how they use photographs for the same thing, but slightly differently.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and that that previous article there, it's worth checking out. It kind of goes into some of the math behind it and some of the more sophisticated ways of hiding information. It's really quite interesting from a math perspective. And actually, it was one of the first things I remember trying out, I think, on a Linux distribution years ago, was I was kind of playing with that, because it, there's like a command line tool that made it super easy. Just go download it in the shell, and then input like a text message, and it would go hide it in your image for you. I remember thinking like, oh wow, this is really neat.
Could you see the change in the photo?
I think I ended up putting in, I think it was basically doing this simple version. So for like small ones, like a small sentence, it didn't really, but if you tried to put like a bigger file in there, then it looked pretty much like this sample.
Well, if you've got these huge photos, like,
I know in today's modern era, where there's like people are uploading and backing up all their smartphone pictures and they're multiple megabytes, there's a lot of room for, just some secret text.
And you don't have to do every byte as well.
Right.
You can have a predetermined code as to how many bytes you use and where they are, and
make it as sparse as you want.
Yeah. Wow. And then it's very difficult to pick up, I would imagine.
Yeah. It sounds kind of fun. I wonder if I can go find another an easy tool. If I do, I'll put it in the show notes. You can send you can send us your steganography samples. We'll put it in the feedback and see if we can find the code.
Don't send us the message.
Yeah, don't send us the message. That's great. All right. Well, before we move on, anything else you want to add about steganography or that story?
No. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Well, if that's got you a little freaked out about all things paper, then you should just go digital. Go digital. Maybe you've already started that trip. Anything you have a device, bring it over to our first sponsor. That's right. Our friends over at Ting. Head on over to techsnap.ting.com to get started with mobile that makes sense. Yeah, that's right. I'll say it again. Mobile that makes sense. Ting is a smarter way to do mobile. With the average bill just $23 a month, a line starts at just $6 a month. And then guess what? You just pay for what you use. Yeah, it's as simple as that. You use some minutes, you just pay for those minutes. Head on over to their rates page, techsnap.ting.com/rates. There you'll find this fun little interactive chart. You can play with it. Lines start $6 a month, 1, 2, 3, 4, however many you need. It's a great option. Maybe you're running a small business. Maybe you have a nanny. You just want them to have an extra line, or you're worried about a grandparent or a family member. You can get them a line just to know that you can always reach them when you need to. At $6 a month, that really changes the math on that. You don't have to worry about some family plan where you have a giant number of shared minutes and you're really constricted. No, if you need more minutes at Ting, you just use more minutes. Maybe you don't use any minutes. Guess what? That's going to be $0 per month. Yeah, $0. You don't use any text messages. That's $0 per month as well. And probably your TechSNAP viewers will probably use some megabytes. But you're savvy. You're Wi-Fi savvy. If you're that savvy, you're going to pay $22 a month. But that gets you all the features. You get three-way calling. You get tethering. You get voicemail. You get no contracts, no early termination fees. And whenever you want. You don't have to change your plans. You don't have to do anything fancy. You don't have to, call up your rep and beg them to not charge you an overage fee. No, none of that. If you need to use more that month, you just use more. You need to use less. None of this signing up for a contract where you have to estimate your maximum usage for the contract terms, and then make sure you get something that's at least a little bit over that to play it safe, but not too far under that you won't have enough. No. That's why Ting is mobile. That makes sense. Plus, Ting, they're like us. They're nerds, they're geeks. They're conscious about security. They don't have to worry about doing all of these, building lines, because they're a reseller. They have both GCM and CDMA, so they've got all the lines you need. You can bring your own phone or head on over to their store. When you go to techsnap.ting.com, you'll get a $25 service credit. That will either cover probably more than your first month if you're anything like me, or use that in their shop. Go pick up a brand new iPhone 7. Yeah, they got those over there. You can go get yourself a SIM card, a Motorola G4, a pretty good deal at only $154. They've got financing that's available if you need it. Or bring your own device. Ting supports both the GSM and CDMA. It's really easy to get started. They make it super available, and it's only $6 a month. So go to techsnap.ting.com. Let them know that you appreciate them sponsoring the TechSNAP program, and go get on a wireless carrier that won't make you hate yourself. It's really that simple. They've got a great app. They've got a great web dashboard, and they've got real humans with real customer service. I think you'll like it a lot. techsnap.ting.com. All right. Well then, you promised. Now you're going to deliver. You'll never guess where Russian spies are hiding their control servers. You know what? I haven't guessed. I'm just going to let you tell us.
Well, first let's talk about what command and control is used for. Most of the exploits that we've talked about are to gain complete control over someone's computer. And why do you want to gain complete control? You might be trying to get something out of their bank account, something like that, but that's not always big enough. Sometimes you want to use their computer to launch an attack on other people. but you've got all these computers. You're not connected to them directly. No, you can't do that because it doesn't scale. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of compromised machines all within one botnet. So what you have is you have a command and control channel. And back when it was simple, they would just, I've seen them spring up on IRC where you go into a channel and there's all this weird crap coming in where somebody will mess it. There's hundreds of people in this channel and they're all spouting out what looks like absolute rubbish.
People.
Yeah. And then somebody else pipes up and it's totally different from all the other stuff. And basically IRC is being used as a command and control channel. So what they have here is the problem with having a public command and control channel is once it's known what it is, they just shut it down.
Right, it's really easy to shut down or monitor or whatever.
Yeah, it's some website, it's an IRC channel, something like that. You just block it. You get in touch with the IRC
or whatever.
Yep. So what these folks are doing is they decided that they would use comments on photographs. In this case, it happened to be a Britney Spears photograph on her Instagram account. And let's talk a little bit about the group that they are referring to. So this is from antivirus provider ESET. I hope it might be ESET, but yeah, let's try ESET because ESET would be two S's. So they're talking about a group called Turla, which is a Russian-speaking hacking group. And basically, they created something called WhipBot that infiltrated the Windows-based systems of embassies and governments of multiple European countries. I think we talked about this about 2 months ago. Many of them former Eastern Bloc nations. Then a few months later, at Kaspersky, they discovered an extremely stealthy Linux backdoor that was used in the same campaign, a finding that showed that it was much broader than previously believed because the first time they only found WhipBot. They didn't find this stealthy Linux backdoor. So Turla has also been known to use satellite-based internet connections to cover its tracks. I'm not sure how that will help them cover their tracks because it's still just an ISP, isn't it? Unless they're renting, hacking into existing communications, but I don't think they're doing that. So in March, researchers observed Turla using what was then a zero-day vulnerability in Windows to infiltrate European government military computers. We already talked about that. It almost sounds like the previous one that they mentioned first. But so about this particular very ingenious solution, basically what the malware would do is it would go and look for a comment. It would look at all the comments. It's very misleading the way that they've written it, and this is almost a direct copy and paste from the original document. But we'll go into the original document and show you how what they have here is slightly different from what is actually on this page. They haven't done their HTMLify very well. They've missed some stuff that makes this more interesting. So basically what they do is they look for a comment and then they compute a hash value on that comment. And it's a custom hash algorithm, so it's not like an MD5 or something like that. If the hash happens to match 183, it then runs a regular expression on the comment in order to obtain the full path of the bit.ly URL. If you're not familiar with bit.ly, bit.ly is a URL shortener. Instead of pasting a very long URL into, say, a Twitter post, that's where I think bit.ly came from, was Twitter. You then get a shortened URL that you can put in a Twitter post, and you have more room for text. So if the regex is supplied here in the post.
Ooh,
but
yeah, look at that.
If you run the comment in question through this regex, you wind up getting this URL, and I'm sure it's just the 2KD at the end. And now if you look down a little bit later to where it starts saying Smith 2155, just a little bit further down, they try to say that you can see this character precedes each character that makes the path of the bit.ly URL. What they've done is they've interspersed regular text with a non-printable Unicode character. But if you look there and look at what they're coming up with, it doesn't make any sense. So let's jump to the next article and scroll down until you see Britney Spears' photograph again. It's 2/3 of the way down. Keep going. This isn't it. Yep. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. A little bit further. You'll see Smith there. You see Smith right there? Nope. Go up a bit. It's right there. Smith 2155. You can see the 200D characters in there. So what you do is you take the 200. You take the character immediately after the 200D and put that into the URL. So there's the 2, the K, the D, the H, the U, the capital H. Yeah, so that's how it all comes out. Now, they just fail. The previous article is treating these curly brace, 200D, close, not curly brace, bracket, trying less than greater than. The previous article is treating those as HTML tags and not rendering them. I went in and looked at it, and I couldn't actually see it there, so maybe they fixed it up or something, but it's kind of misleading in the original article. So after they found this URL, they Bitly keeps track of how many times they've had to give out the long URL for the short URL you provide. So in effect, when you go to this URL, Bitly will redirect you. I think it's an Apache 301 or is it a 403? It's a redirect code. It's a standard HTTP. Yep, thank you. Redirect. So what they do is they say, I'm sorry, you're at the wrong place. Where you want to go is over here. And it's just built into the HTTP protocol. But Bitly is able to keep track of how many times this happens, and they found out that there were only 17 visits for this one URL. So they reckon this wasn't really command and control; it was just for testing. Mm-hmm. But this is one way to do command and control, all sort of hidden like.
This is fascinating. Yeah. Is that kind
and it'd be fast too. I mean, it takes a long time to talk about and explain, but it'd be very fast.
Right. Certainly fast enough for any, most of your practical needs. It's not like you need, millisecond latencies on any of this, as long as you can, make a comment somewhere and go out and disseminate, and then everything just works. Wow.
And now the thing to keep in mind is why they're using social media here is because, again, it'll get lost. Yep. Unless you're blocking traffic to Instagram at work or at home, the command and control will work. It'll just get through and get out, and you're done.
It looks like traffic from a legitimate user. Mm-hmm. People post dumb, weird stuff on the internet all the time.
Yeah. And besides, all you have to do is embed the URL, like they said, the URL identifier somewhere in the statement, and then just put a non-printable character behind each one that doesn't make sense anyway. But now that you think of it, you see crap like this on most YouTube videos as well.
Yeah, you do. All over most, public comments on the internet. Huh. They're really just, it's like using a comment system as like a weird database front end, which is what it is anyway.
You've heard of numbers channels?
No, I haven't.
Radio stations that just read out numbers. So you have someone there.
Yeah, okay. I've heard of the concept, not the term.
43, 28. And they've existed for many years, and they're usually used to communicate to secret networks. Mm-hmm. And you can find them on shortwave. They're digital.
Oh, that's
some of them are very well known. This is just a different kind of numbers channel.
Yeah, it really is that. Huh. We just have, it's a little harder to tune in on it unless you're looking for it.
If you have a friend with a ham radio or something like that, you can usually jump on the internet and find a numbers channel, find out where a numbers channel is on shortwave, and then just tune into it. I think Cuba runs one, or used to run one. I know Russia still runs one.
That's fascinating.
But it's very interesting to hear them. And you say, what the hell are they doing? And who are they talking to? And who's listening?
Yeah, exactly. Makes you wonder.
Now, have I told you before how my dad worked for military communications?
No, you have not. Please do.
And back at that time, what you would do is this is during the Cold War, 60s and 70s. What you do is you'd have a sender here and a receiver here, and all day long they would send noise to each other. And so when it was time to send a message, you just slipped the message into the noise, and it would just be transmitted over, and anyone listening, it still looks like noise.
So how did they tell
instead
the
of having, sorry?
How did they tell the difference?
They have printed cards with holes in them or marks somehow, and you put the same card in both machines at either end every day. So it's like one-off encryption pads.
Yeah, okay, one-time pad type situation. Interesting.
Right. So this thing knows what it's sending. This thing knows what the noise is. And so the message comes in, it just cancels out all the noise. And if it's 000, when it cancels out all the noise, it says there's no message. And all of a sudden it gets this data coming thing. Oh, there's a message. I'll record it. And out it comes.
Oh, fascinating.
And these boxes were maybe the size of a large microwave oven. And the cards were treated very securely. And when you went to eject the card in the morning to put a new card in, it would cut it in half.
Yeah, that makes sense. Totally. We're done with that.
My dad wound up installing these at various places. I know he installed them like Prime Minister's residence, NASA not NASA, NATO headquarters or something. Prime Minister's house. Did I say Prime Minister's house?
Various government and official installations.
It was really interesting.
Yeah, that does sound nice. So you just, you've got your stack of these encryption codes, and you put the one in for today or whatever length of time, and now you can transmit.
We went and we looked up the machines on Wikipedia. You see photographs of them, and somewhere else we found user manuals for them. These are top of the line things produced by the NSA at the time.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome.
Nowadays, I don't think they're so good. Anyway, we're way off track.
Probably not. All right. Anything more you want to add about Turla and their findings here?
No. Yes. This kind of command and control center is virtually impossible to stop, because it's just, you go out there, you find the photograph you need, and then away you go. It's very difficult to find out how it's working, because it's just hidden in all this other traffic. Because you get a lot of traffic coming out of your office going to Instagram, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But it doesn't have to be Instagram.
It could be any commonly, Facebook, Twitter, Facebook. Really whatever.
Yep.
Comments on a blog.
That cooking Facebook group is actually doing command and control for a network of bots.
You can compromise a WordPress server and then use their comment section as your...
Yep.
Crazy.
Yep.
All right. Well, if this kind of sounds fun to you, you're interested in figuring out how you can automate this kind of things, tap into social media APIs to send secret communications, you're going to need someplace to do that dev work. I suggest our friends over at DigitalOcean.com. Yeah, that's right. DigitalOcean, cloud computing designed for developers. They make it super simple to spin up a new VPS of your dreams. It takes less than 55 seconds. You've got your choice of a range of popular OSs, including FreeBSD. Yeah, there's Ubuntu, Debian, Fedora, CentOS, Container Linux, and they work closely with these distributions to ensure that you're getting, faithful distributions, official images. They're updated right away. They've done a lot of great work with FreeBSD project to make sure that FreeBSD runs beautifully on DigitalOcean's service. They use first-class KVM hypervisor. Yeah, that's right. You know it and love it from Linux. And they've just introduced some new killer features. Things like cloud firewalls. Now you can easily secure your droplets at no additional cost. You can stop mucking about with IP tables rules and use their easy API or UI, or, hey, some of the apps as well. Can configure your firewall. Make sure that traffic from those botnets we were just discussing doesn't hit your precious servers. To get started, you can use our promo code SNAPOcean, one word, SNAPOcean. That'll get you a $10 credit. And when you check out DigitalOcean's pricings, you'll realize, hey, that's a great deal. Prices start at just $5 a month. For that, you get 512 MB of RAM, 1 core processor, 20 gigs of all SSD disk, and a whopping terabyte of transfer. Yeah, you heard me right. A full terabyte. And they've got 40 gigabit E right to those KVM hypervisors. So this is serious bandwidth here. We're not talking about some terabyte of transfer that you'll never be able to use because things are so slow. Now, anytime, whenever I'm on one of my DigitalOcean droplets and I do an apt-get update or I'm installing some software package, I'm always blown away. It installs so fast. I'm never waiting around for downloads. You'll have that same experience. It really is great network, great transfer. They've done a beautiful job. If you follow them on social media, maybe you're a bot. If not, if you follow their social media accounts, you'll see some of the beautiful racks they've got. They've got some lovely data centers, and they're probably opening new data centers near you all the time. They've got them all over the world. Frankfurt, Toronto. I just saw block storage is now available in their Toronto data center. So they've got those features that you need: block storage, things like monitoring, load balancers. It's really all there. And they've got hourly pricing. I love this one. You're just trying to play with a new idea. I was just playing with setting up a Kubernetes cluster over the weekend. And where did I do it? I did it on DigitalOcean because it's so easy. You spin up 5 nodes, get some nice ones over here. Oh, yeah, look at this one. The $6 an hour, 4 gigs memory, 2 core processor, 4 terabytes of transfer. It's a pretty sweet spot. So you get them however long you need them. Play with them for a couple hours. You're going to spend less than $1. It's really worth it. And you have this whole environment you can destroy, recreate it, learn, practice. It's an awesome resource. And because they get the community, they have real editors on hand to turn community documentation into some of the best documentation you're going to find on the internet. Show that you appreciate all that they do by using our promo code SNAPOcean and go to DigitalOcean.com today and get yourself a brand new VPS. Thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the TechSNAP program. Alrighty, that brings us to the next and I think final topic of the main segment today. What do you have for us?
Well, it was, which night was this? This would have been, I think, that it was Friday night at BSD Can, which is the first full day of talks. I was sitting in the Hacker Lounge, and all around me, people were laughing. Every once in a while, there'd be some laughter and stuff like that.
A little giggle here or there.
Yeah. And later on, I learned what it was. They had just created libtrue, which is a library for truth, basically.
Okay.
And it turns out that it's actually a very useful project, and it's going to wind up, no doubt, being imported into just about every OS out there. I can see it happening.
Well, you have piqued my curiosity here, sir. Please go on.
Okay, so the project seems very well coordinated. I was actually sitting 2 people away from Andrew when he started importing this, I think. I'm going to have to check the logs, but it's only 4 days old, so that sort of matches up with Friday, doesn't it? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Yeah, that's right. So they must have been doing this work while I was sitting around them.
That's awesome.
And I'm very proud to sort of not been a part of it, but sort of there when it happened.
Around it as it happened, yeah.
Yeah. So
you're
the headline
to it.
of GitHub libtrue is "You can't handle the truth."
Beautiful.
And as you can see, if you scroll all the way down, it's currently building on FreeBSD 10.3. on
12 12 current?
On FreeBSD current, and it's also going through the Travis CI. I forget what CI stands for.
Continuous integration.
Thank you, sir. That's the second time I've forgotten that acronym in the past few months, few weeks.
I mean, it could be chief investigator. There's a lot of things there.
So if you click on the next link and go to true.xyz, you can see that they've got something there that was created by GitHub Pages. Now, the even next link, that's back into libtrue, sorry. Not long afterwards, a port was created on fresh ports, and that was the 10th. No, that was the next day. It wound up getting into the FreeBSD ports tree the next day. The project, pardon me, I think I'm coming back to Philadelphia after being away for a while. I think my allergies have just kicked in full, so it's really hard to breathe at times.
Yeah, totally. We appreciate you sticking it out.
Thank you. The next page you've got here, they actually have a code of conduct for this project, which is very important. You've got to have a code of conduct these days. Everyone is doing that. So the next project, the next link, though, is record not found. Record not found has actually found that there's 34 watchers on GitHub for a project that only started 4 days ago.
Wow. Yeah, that's some good momentum they've got going.
Now, the other thing to look at, though, is there's 58 issues open. I want to know what they're doing about that. There's been 49 commits. Actually, now there's only 54 issues. And they're talking about these are very, very good issues as well, like Haskell bindings.
Yep,
Someone wants to get the Haskell bindings going.
No tests.
So, yeah, but there's no support for faults. It's only true. They want to do a REST rewrite.
That's also very in vogue these days.
Yes. Now, way down, they want to add in Kerberos support, which is a very good idea.
Why isn't this a Dockerized microservice? Yes, libtruth as a service. That's the next one.
Yes.
We can spin that up on a DigitalOcean droplet right now.
They need an RSC or an RFD proposal process. And what about on a network? It's not guaranteed on a network. And like someone mentioned, BSD star.make is not portable.
These are fun issues. I like this a lot. We need multi-threaded truth. Amen.
Now, truth handling as a service is also very important. You already mentioned that, didn't you? Yes. Now, one of the things, accessibility. They've raised accessibility as being an issue. Now, someone actually denies that truth is not the answer. They're saying truth is not the answer. Now, on the next page is another very important thing, but what is truth? So they're questioning the entire foundation of the project. Someone pointed out there's neither Ruby nor Python support in this project, and that's really got to get fixed in a hurry. Now, someone actually said that the install was broken. Now, I didn't look at that issue before to find, it's still open. I don't know what they're doing. If the install's broken and it's only 4 days old, how they committed this? Someone wants systemd support, and I don't see how that's going to happen because this is all about the truth.
I see.
Someone wants a JavaScript version. I can't see that happening. And someone's taking question with the license. They want an Apache 2 license.
Is it BSD licensed, I assume?
I believe it is. If I go back, yes, it's two clause BSD, I think. Okay. Now, believe it or not, there's actually a subreddit dedicated to this.
Oh, that's great. Already. Oh, yeah, here we go. Boom. That's reddit.com/r/libtrue.
Yes. So I think you can see why this is going to be really popular. And I think you can see why there's going to be a lot of people wanting to get truth into their projects as well. And I can see other projects incorporating truth into their projects. And I can see a lot of operating systems incorporating truth into their projects as well. So I'm very proud that this came out of BSDCan 2017.
Oh, it's got Capsicum support too. I didn't even see that, but I see some
Does it?
Capsicum
Does
stuff. At least in one of
Where
the.
is this? Is that true?
Maybe not, but it says with Capsicum. Maybe optional. I was looking at true.c over here.
Oh, hold on. Look at the other. And they have a Python. They have add Python bindings for fast libtrue access.
So you have to compile like native bindings. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
They have website as a submodule.
Oh yeah, return.
Yeah, you see libtrue /libtrue.github.io.
Oh, this is amazing. I love it.
This is a lot of work.
Oh, true.c. Oh, beautiful. Look at that. That's pure simplicity at its heart.
There's not much to it.
No, there's not. In fact, I think there might be more makefile building code associated with than actual application code in this case.
Have you looked at the actual libtrue true.c?
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yep. That is good. Oh, yeah, you said with Capsicum and open container as well. Closed container. I'm sure you're going to start using this soon, aren't you?
Yeah. Well,
I'm going to have to get work involved with this.
As soon as there's that, as soon as there's a web API that I can call, that'll be
wasn't there an issue?
Yeah, I think there was. Maybe I can contribute something there.
Fine.
I mean, they've got the Python support, so we just add a little little
API.
Little
yeah, well, there's
HTTP
3 pages
server.
of issues here. I think there's something wrong here. Well, to be fair, the first issue raised was documentation.
Yeah, right. So there might be some issues that would be covered by that documentation if it existed. Get some man pages going. That would be useful.
I can see questions arising on Stack Overflow about this.
Mm-hmm. Proper use of libtrue.
Yes. Oh wait, did we look at the closed issues? The closed issues may be, well, here's one. There was no port. There was no code of conduct. They wanted to move the repo. Oh yeah,
faster libtrue.
They moved it to be under GitHub libtrue. That's right. Yep.
Awesome.
libxo support. Yes.
Looks like they're making some pretty rapid progress then.
I'm impressed.
I'm impressed as well.
This is only 4 days worth of work.
Already 6 contributors.
Yes. Yep. 5 pull requests.
So are we going to see your name in there, Mr. Dan?
Probably. There are 16 forks of it already, so I'm sort of worried about, am I too late?
Yeah, right. Exactly. I'm sure we'll see this, in all sorts of upstream projects.
Very soon.
There'll be a free software licensed clone of it at some point, I'm sure.
What do you mean free software?
Well, someone's going to want a GPL version that they can have.
Maybe.
GNU True, that's what they'll call it. Who knows? That's awesome that you got to see the birth of that. We'll have to check back in regularly and see how it grows.
I agree. This is a big deal.
Anything else you want to add about our friend libtrue? The
truth is out there.
Exactly. That's what you'll be saying after we talk about our final sponsor. That's right. That's our friends over at IX Systems. IX Systems, they've got the one true solution to your hardware provider needs. That's right. Don't get stuck with one of these big box providers where you have to shop online and make guesswork out of your important infrastructure buying process. No. My friends, head on over to ixsystems.com. There you will find amazing custom machines powered by incredible Intel processors. They've got a team of talented, highly trained, technically expert sales engineers waiting to talk to you, waiting to pamper you, waiting to make sure that you understand that IX Systems, they know your business is important, they know your project's important, they know you're important, and they know your server is important. They want your server experience to be custom, to be top-notch. They are going to work hard with you to make sure that you get exactly the right server, NAS, storage solution, whatever you may need. They'll make sure that it works for you for the first time, the right way. it really couldn't be easier. If you're like me, you'll be a little confused the first time you talk with IX if you haven't already. If you go to ixsystems.com/TechSNAP, you'll get a great guide. It's an awesome guide to buying hardware for open source software. It really highlights IX has been in this game for a while. They've seen the .com booms come and go, and they've weathered those waters. They're really experts in open source software, whether that be a BSD or a Linux distribution, or hey, maybe even Windows, whatever works. They've seen it all. They've worked with a ton of awesome clients, from small businesses to giant government agencies to monolith enterprises that run the world. IX has seen it. They built petabyte arrays. Really go check out some of their blog posts. They do a great job of highlighting some of the awesome projects they've worked at, and it really shows you the confidence that these they've seen your problems before. They have the trained staff to make sure that you get the right solution. They'll work with you. Go check out the FreeNAS Mini. I mean, if you're just like, I don't really have the storage I want, sure could use a little bit extra storage at home. There's really no better solution. It's super handsome. You can build your own if you want. Yep, they totally support that. FreeNAS, open source. Great project. You can build your own. Or it's just, it's just so cute. It comes with expandable drive bays. You can swap things in, and IX really takes care of you. They make sure that any hard drives you get, They burn and tested them. It's white glove service. They know you don't want to have to get your device and then have to replace a hard drive right away. No, that's crazy sauce. Look at that thing. Maybe your needs are a little bit more than that. Maybe what you need is the True Rack. I got to say, I drool over the True Rack just about every week whenever I go to the IX system page. Powerful, flexible rack scale architecture that takes the guesswork out of building large scale data center applications. So if you're in the position, you're building out, you're expanding AWS, it's just too expensive. You want to work on your own cloud. IX Systems is a great choice for you. Or you just need a new server. Maybe you're doing, some machine learning. Maybe you just need a new NAS for your home office. IX Systems is a great partner to work with. Go to ixsystems.com/TechSNAP. Share that guide with anyone whether it be yourself or someone at the company you work for who's in the position to think about buying some new hardware, and recommend it to your friends. Thank you very much to IX Systems for sponsoring the TechSNAP program. And head on over to ixsystems.com/TechSNAP today to get some very sexy new hardware. And that brings us today's feedback, the time in the show where we take time to respond to you, our beloved audience. That's right. You can reach us at the subreddit. You can reach us at the jb.com, jupiterbroadcasting.com contact form, or you can reach us on Twitter. Those addresses will be later in the show. But people have already sent us feedback. Yeah, that's right. That's why we love you guys so much. Let's get to it. First up, we've got a letter from our friend Marco. He's asking about quadrupled photographs. Hello. I'm a teacher in primary school. Because nobody did it, I slowly evolved into an IT administrator. I think that's a very sympathetic story, Marco. A lot of people end up in that. You have a little skill, or you've developed some skill, and you're forced to wear more hats than you might otherwise want to. Mostly I learn as I go, and from mistakes. Amen. Before my question, I would like to say that I also agree with the previous listener. Dan, you have a great personality, as seen on TechSNAP, and I would also love to hear a deep dive on IPv6, especially the advantages and differences. That sounds like something we can do, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my situation. Users started to complain that computers are running low on free space. I took a look at it and found this mess. Users were taking photos and videos, and after every event, they copied all photos and videos to a computer. The problem occurred when the same images and videos became duplicated, tripled, and quadrupled. Here's how they did it. First, they took photos and copied them to a computer, to a folder, DCIM. All right, so we've got image 001, image 002, and image 003. Then they took more photos and copied all photos to a different folder on the same computer. See, here we go. We've got another copy of 001, 002, 003, and now we've got 004 and 005, and so on. Every once in a while, somebody emptied the memory card in the camera, so naming of new photos started from the beginning. Ooh, ouch. Sometimes the camera wasn't used for a long time, so that the battery completely drained, so the date on the camera reset and the date of the photo being taken was wrong. And they did this on several computers. I would like to remove duplicate photos and videos, but based only on content, not date or file name, which are both wrong. Can this be done on FreeNAS or vanilla FreeBSD or Ubuntu Linux? Thanks for the information. Keep on with the great work. Hey, thank you, Marco. That's a really great question, and a very nicely detailed and set up email there. Makes it pretty easy for us to read and to answer, so we really appreciate that.
My initial thought was hash.
Mm-hmm.
You do a SHA, an MD5 or a SHA 512. You might as well just use a very quick hash.
Yeah, right.
The quickest hash you can find. And basically what that'll do is that'll give you a number or a string, which is usually unique for everything you do. So you have a document, you take a hash of that document, and that checksum is a fixed value. You change anything in that document, that checksum will change. So if you just ran a checksum over each one of these files, you would find out the identical ones, and the ones with the same hash are definitely identical, and you can just delete them. If they have different hashes, it doesn't mean that they're not. They could still be identical. Say perhaps one bit got flipped or something like that, but we're going to assume that the photographs are, that the files are untouched. They represent the photograph that was actually taken. So you could write a script, do an MD5 over all the files. I would then output at the end output a list of the duplicates you found and said, hey, you can delete all this. But first you got to write the code, then you got to debug the code and stuff like that, and you might make mistakes. So while you were talking, I Googled for identifying duplicate photos, and there's lots of free software out there to do just this for you. I found something called just posts that referred to something called Awesome Photo Identifier, Awesome Duplicate Photo Finder. And there's I think this one is for PC. There's some for Mac. So I would just find one. Say you're on a Mac, download it from the App Store, but use one of these tools. Don't write the code yourself because it'll just be too much help. But that would help a lot.
Rikai pointed us at another program option. Here he pointed us to fdupes. It's a program for identifying and deleting duplicate files residing within specified directories. Looks like it's pretty widely installed on various places. Here's an Ubuntu man page, for instance. So that's another helpful one. Looks like there's a lot of pretty good options for that, which is nice.
We don't know what OS. He did not mention the OS, did he? He mentioned, can this be done on FreeNAS or Linux, Ubuntu, but I'm not sure what OS.
Right, yeah. But hopefully, as long as it's not Windows anyway, it looks like there's a lot of options. But there might be Windows as well, and I'm sure there's probably some programs there as well. Maybe Marco can send us a follow-up letter to tell us, what solution he found, what he went with, and how it went.
Yes, please. This is very interesting.
I totally sympathize with that. Like, oh my gosh, this is such a
I know
mess.
I've got this problem on some of mine as well.
Yeah. Yikes.
This feedback question came some time ago, and I've put it off because I wanted to think about it for a little while. I don't remember when it came in, but I'm sure it was before we did I'm sure it was before May 17th.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, on to the next one then. Thank you very much, Marco, and let us know how it goes. Next
Thank you.
We've got a letter from Gary. Gary writes to us about an Apple laptop repair place. Hey, Dan. On one of the TechSNAP shows, you mentioned that you got your Apple laptop repaired. Would you be kind enough to share the place where you had that work done at? Thanks much, Gary.
Yes, I'm using that laptop right now. This laptop over here that's streaming the video is a brand new laptop, and the laptop that I'm using here in the big screen is my old 2011 MacBook Pro. And this screen is the graphic output is just wonderful. What had happened is that the video chip died, and so I took it apart and shipped the main board off to a place out on the west coast of the U.S., and they fixed it by replacing the video chip entirely and sent it back to me, and it's working great. I guess I've had it for about 2 months now. It's wonderful. If you go on eBay, look for the user Brick Fence, all one word. There'll be a link in the show notes. They've got 393 positive feedbacks, and in another week or so, they'll have mine as well. And I highly recommend them. They did great pre-sale conversation with me about my original query, and I said, listen, do you need me to take this off? Do you need me to take that off? Have I chosen the right service for the problem I'm demonstrating? Great customer interactions. Use them.
Awesome. Okay. Hey, that's great. You've delivered exactly on that request. Thank you very much, Mr. Dan. It's kind of it's like a neat idea. You know, you send off your laptop to the care of the internet, and it sends you back a fixed laptop. I mean, there's like, some money that gets exchanged, and in theory, it's a person doing the work, but really, it's the internet.
Well, what I like about it is this person has certain skills, and the people always have broken laptops, and this person knows exactly how to fix them, has the right equipment, and there's no other way for you to find this person except over the internet.
Yeah, exactly. It allows you, unless you happen to like, yep, I have this friend who fixes stuff. Unless you're in that friend group, then you're out of luck. But yeah, exactly. The internet allows us to have that kind of information freely at hand.
Someone did recommend a group in New York City for this repair, but I happened to stumble across these guys on eBay, and it just made sense, and I'm very pleased.
Awesome.
And it comes with a 6-month warranty.
Oh, hey, even better. Great. Okay, on to our final piece of feedback tonight. We've got a letter from David. David writes to us about a low-power pfSense and pfSense 2.5. I'm slowly convincing myself to put together a small pfSense firewall. I originally wanted to do some eBay hunting, but I keep picturing the electricity bill for running it 24/7. EU pricing. So I've arrived at an embedded infrastructure. But just in time, there was some news about pfSense that in the future it will require AES-NI to be present. Which, for people who don't know, that's an accelerated instruction in the CPU for doing AES. Certain classes of it anyway. This kind of gets important, as I would like to access part of the network through OpenVPN, including the NAS, maybe some intelligent home devices, temp readings, fish tank control, etc. So given a power consumption limit, and let's say a noise limit, in your experience, would an Atom-based solution be sufficient with 4 NICs on board, or should I just get a Pentium or Core-based single NIC board and hunt for used 2-port server NIC, one for the LAN and one for the DMZ? I simply don't think that the ARM Netgate appliance is sufficient, and the Atom-based ones are too expensive. Right now, the only thing I expect out, really, is a used 1U mini chassis, and that I might replace the fans for silent ones. But really, any idea helps at this point. Thanks, and keep up the good show. David. P.S. If you want to suggest alternatives, running something 24/7 will cost roughly $3 per watt per year over here, and assume a 3-year usage for the total cost of ownership. Hey, also nicely spelled out. Thank you for the detailed letter. What do you think about that, Mr. Dan?
$3 a watt.
Yeah.
Where is he from?
I'm not sure.
Because $3 a watt, if I'm running 100 watt, that's $300 a year. I don't know. Anyway, but that's not the point. He's thinking of getting a 1U mini chassis. A 1U mini chassis is still a rack mount, isn't it? I'm not familiar with a 1U mini chassis.
I think so. I believe so. I'm not sure. You'd think with 1U that, it would be a rack mount.
Why not just go and buy something from NetApp? They've got some pretty decent stuff. He doesn't have a very strong connection. He doesn't say whether... Yeah, I'm going to assume a 1 gig will be sufficient for what he wants.
Right, not 10 gig.
But NetApp has a lot of really good stuff for NetApp? No, Netgate.
Netgate.
Sorry. Totally different type of solution. That's not the first time I've done that. When you put the wrong sponsor logo on them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there are some very small solutions that you can get from Netgate. Just very, very tiny little boxes. We're only talking, not much bigger than your cell phone when you look down from above, and maybe about as thick as 2 or 3 cell phones, and sometimes 2 or 3 NICs as well. You're not talking about cost or how much you want to spend, but I'm assuming that spending some money on it, as opposed to cobbling it together from pieces at home, is what you want to do. And I'm basing that solely upon the used 1U Mini chassis. These things don't take much power at all. And that's what I do, is I would buy something small like that, ready-made. You can buy many of them second-hand. Yeah. Just have a look through on eBay and grab something like that.
Yeah, I know he says he doesn't think, what is he? He doesn't think that the ARM, he worries about the ARM appliance.
Yep. But not all of them are ARM.
Yeah, not all
Most
of them are
the
ARM.
new stuff from Netgate are now AES-NI compliant.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah, I mean, that is part of the nice
And they're
feature.
doing that because they're no longer supporting things without it.
Yeah, right. I mean, like, it looks like, here you can get some, for starting anywhere at like a couple $100, you can start getting some of the nice Intel Atom software. And then if you get it from Netgate that they've done, done some tests to ensure that you'll get the kind of performance that you're looking for. From my end of the woods, the router I'm using right now is basically like a micro ATX Celeron processor. It runs the processor there. It's like TDP is like 10 watts. So I don't know if that's like low enough for his use case or not. But I think I just have 3 gigabit ports on there. But it does everything I need, and I haven't had much complaints. And it's nice enough that it has, it has like some basic. Really has all the CPU features that I would want for. You can even do some like video encoding, and has AES-NI and all the features that I would really like. So it's been a pretty positive experience. I think I got it was like an old Celeron one, but a lot of the core ones, modern Celeron chips, really aren't that bad. So it seems like there's some options. You can go with the pre-made ones. You can cobble something together yourself. I think there is a lot on the low end. If you're not trying to push 10 gig traffic all the time, then you should be able to get away with a lot. Especially if you have a nice, server NIC or Intel server NIC particular, something quality there. We have good drivers, then it should work well.
Yeah, I push a lot of data through my little Netgate appliance. It's several years old, and I'm pulling data down all the time, sending data up for backup, stuff like that. So you should be fine with something that is very low powered, because pushing bytes around doesn't take a lot of CPU.
Yeah, especially if you're not doing a ton of filtering or deep packet inspection or any of that kind of stuff. It's just hey, forward those along.
So just find something that supports AES-NI and just use it.
I know the Reddit PFSense community and the PFSense forum, they usually have some pretty good discussions about popular builds that they do. So if you are interested in doing it from yourself, not going with the pre-made appliance, that's something I would recommend checking out. They usually have some, various cost levels of, premium or bargain basement, depending on where you fall.
Yeah, I think you'll be able to find something rather easily.
And let us know what you
let us know what you choose. We'd like to know too.
Awesome. Okay, well, that's it for the feedback this week. You can send us feedback at techsnap.reddit.com or jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact, or finding us on Twitter. It's so easy. You have so many options. Please send us feedback. All right, and with that, it's time for the roundup, the final segment of today's show. We have some stories that just weren't quite big enough to make it into the first segment, but they're still important. Consider them homework for you and us. They're interesting stories we'd like to touch on just a little bit, and hey, maybe they'll spawn some feedback. So, first up, 8,000 vulnerabilities found in Pacemakers. Wow, okay, well that doesn't sound like a good thing now, does it, Dan?
No. I seem to remember a TV show where they reprogrammed someone's pacemaker using this. But basically, a pacemaker gets reset or adjusted using a programmer. The programmer isn't someone sitting at a keyboard. It's a separate device. They call it the programmer of the pacemaker.
Almost like flashing something, or, you know.
Yeah. Similar to flashing, exactly. So pacemaker programmers do not authenticate to pacemaker devices and don't require that physicians do either. So basically, if you have a programmer, you can alter the pacemaker.
Wow, that's kind of terrifying.
So you can buy these programmers for somewhere between $500 to $3,000. So basically,
not cheap, but actually kind of cheap. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. It's like kryptonite in that sense. Yeah. If you just have it, then you can program it. That's terrifying.
So, yeah.
I guess it's like the same kind of stuff we've talked about before, you know, how long it's taken IT, the internet, for us to kind of start thinking with security all the time from the beginning. And I think it's, you know, it's the same way in the medical field, I'm sure. And in the automotive field, and anywhere where technology is touching. It's so proliferated that, you know, there's a lot of people trying to break in.
So not only do you not have to authenticate, all of the programmers that they examined had outdated software with known vulnerabilities. Ugh. Many of them run Windows XP.
You're just trying to upset me with that, aren't you?
As seen in other medical device verticals, keeping devices fully patched and updated continues to be a challenge, despite efforts from the FDA to streamline routine cybersecurity updates. Now, this is an issue. If you change the code, the device needs to be recertified.
Oh.
I know that with if you have a plane certified, that's why you keep seeing new releases of the 737. So they keep making it bigger and different and bigger and different. The thing is, if you built a brand new aircraft, you would have to go through the whole certification program again.
Right. It's different than just changing.
And that's why they keep, you know, making it longer and changing certain things. It's still the same aircraft, I swear.
Yep.
But they're just making subtle changes as time goes on. And that's why. So I'm quite sure that you would have to, for a new release of software, even if it contained fixes, you would still have to go through the FDA recertification process.
That makes sense. Does this have any tips for people? Is there any way you can mitigate this? Or are they doing anything to increase the security?
I don't think there's anything you can do. It's just that it's obscure enough, and why would anyone want to do it? Right. I mean, there's no profit in it. There's not the profit in this type of vulnerability for the people exploiting the vulnerability that there is in exploiting traditional, what we have been talking about, traditional.
So are we going to see tinfoil shirts instead of tinfoil hats?
I don't think that's going to work.
No, probably not.
No. But yeah.
Well, that's terrifying. Hopefully there can be some incentives placed here or requirements that we can improve the security of these devices.
People have to keep things in perspective. This is possible. It's not very probable.
Right. It's not like we see this going on a lot. It's just one of those.
First, someone has to know what kind of pacemaker you have and buy the right programmer.
Yeah. And then understand enough about pacemaker programming to
do something about it.
Something about it. Yeah.
It's not very probable.
But it does, it is a symptom of a larger problem in our approach and our design. So it's interesting in that respect.
Yes.
Okay. Well then, this is the roundup. On to the next item. This is over at breakandenter.org under their projects. It's called Inception. What is it?
So basically, it's a physical memory manipulation and hacking tool which exploits PCM based DMA. So basically, the tool can attack over FireWire, Thunderbolt, Express Card, PC Card, and any other PCIe interfaces. So basically, they're doing this in order to provide, I quote, a relatively quick, stable, and easy way of performing intrusive and non-intrusive memory hacks against live computers using DMA. DMA being, if I recall my acronyms correctly, direct memory access.
I do believe.
So what they do is they present a serial bus unit directory to the victim machine over the FireWire interface. And the victim operating system thinks it's a device which has been connected to the FireWire port. And since these devices utilize DMA for fast, large bulk data transfers, the victim lowers its shields and enables DMA for the device. The victim now has full read-write access to the lower 4 gig of RAM on the victim.
Oh, man. Wow.
So why would you do this? So it's because the world's forensic experts, governments, and 3-letter acronym agencies are using similar tools. So why don't we have one? Inception is free, as in beer. Here, take it and use it. A professional equivalent tool will set you back about $10,000 US. So basically, it's a GPL license. You go from there. It talks about the hardware you need and the software, which is just common open source software. So I'm sure it's useful to some people. It's not very useful to me because, well, I don't really do this sort of thing.
Right. But it does, I think it is useful in that, especially with like the proliferation of Thunderbolt over USB-C and other, PCI equivalent devices, that we do see maybe more of this, DMA accessible things than we did in the past with more regular USB devices. And I think this is one concern that's been talked about, but now we have like a very concrete open source thing that you can actually test against and show like, yeah, okay, if you plug this in, I can hack your system. This
is not new software.
Yeah, right.
This has been around at least 5 years.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it just seems like it's, it's, if anything, more relevant now, I guess. It's interesting, though.
It sounds pretty cool, and I'm sure that some people listening will say, "Oh,
yeah, I know it does."
I'll use that.
It makes me kind of want to try it. Like if they made it so easy, I can get it all installed and built and hack myself. That is always a fun exercise. I did that with once to show a previous roommate that their Wi-Fi password was insecure. So I took a packet capture of their handshake, and then I uploaded it to the internet where they have those like GPU. They'll try to crack a bunch, run a bunch group dictionary attack with a GPU hash, and then showed them that I was like, yep, look, see, the internet cracked your password.
So you did a TCP dump of? Oh, you just dumped the packets going over the.
You do like you either wait for them to connect and capture the handshake, or you send like a deauth so that they have to redo the handshake. But it was, because he just had some, I forget what the password was now because it was several years ago, but it was like it was like a combination of dictionary words and stuff. And we were in like an argument. I was trying to tell him like, look, that's really not, if you're concerned about security, you really shouldn't do this. I know it seems like no one will probably guess it, but turns out it's really easy to crack. So it's always,
and you did it.
Yeah, well, the internet did it for me, but I told it to do it. So yeah, I did it, exactly. I mean, I could have if I felt like downloading the dictionary list or whatever. But I think it is useful in that vein to have these, it's nice when you have ways to show people or to demonstrate attacks instead, it makes them feel more real. It might make people take additional precautions, which is always good. Okay, moving on then. An ex-admin deletes all customer data and wipes servers of Dutch hosting provider. Oh no, this doesn't sound like a good thing at all.
When I first saw this, it was under... people are trying to get forth the idea that you really should do your backups because maybe your data will disappear from your ISP. Now, what's interesting about this title is it says ex-admin. I'm assuming ex-admin refers to the time he did it, not now. If you see what I mean.
Right. He wasn't fired for this, but he had already been let go or had left the company.
Yeah, they make that clear in the article, but I just found the post misleading. So this article doesn't go into much detail. They just say, it's gone. This is what the website used to look like. This is what it looks like now. But from what I've heard, and if you read the excuse me, the headline carefully, the data was wiped off the servers. It doesn't mean it was deleted. It sounds to me that nothing actually valuable went missing, because if you look at the first link, if you go to Verilux.com, they say right there, after investigation, it looks like we didn't lose any important data. Originally, they thought all the data was lost, but it's not.
Wow.
So it just sounds like it's as if all the links to something were wiped away, but the data is still there, and they're working on getting it going. So it looks like all nodes are online now, and everything's back.
Wow.
They didn't lose anything, despite what the first post says. So it sounds to me like someone wiped out maybe the websites, but not the actual data, because they're a web host, right? So maybe he just removed all the redirects so that the incoming queries went to the right location, because I can imagine various scenarios. Maybe they had a whole bunch of vhosts, and all of a sudden he just wiped out all the vhost entries. You add back in the vhost entries, and you've got your website back.
Right, yeah, exactly. Whatever happened, I'm very glad to hear that they didn't lose all the data that they had, and hopefully this will trigger an internal review of their separation processes, and they can highlight.
This happened four days ago.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm hoping to see a really good
post-mortem here at some point.
Post-mortem come through.
Yikes. Oh, that's a horror story. I'm glad they've got it. And, we talked about this a little when we mentioned the that Joyent outage a couple shows ago. And it's the same kind of stuff, where like they're suddenly having to think about like, well, how do we reboot all of our infrastructure?
I think someone from Joyent was at BSDCan.
Oh, okay. Nice. That's fun.
And then somewhere on Twitter, I saw perhaps Joyent should sponsor BSDCan next year. So if you're from Joyent and you're listening, you know my number.
Exactly. Okay, well then, speaking of BSD, let's just jump right to the next story. Microsoft Azure adds OpenBSD support. Yeah, that's right. I'll say it again. Azure adds OpenBSD support.
They gave a talk at BSDCan about this.
Did they? Oh, cool.
Or they gave a talk about Azure, and they were mentioning that they'd added OpenBSD support. And this is pretty cool. So, at one time, BSD was too obscure for the cloud.
Yeah, totally.
No one supported it.
But these days.
Yeah,
it makes sense. Like they, we heard a lot about them working with the FreeBSD project to get that to be first class on Azure, which is great. And it seems like Microsoft's shown a little bit of a different face in this cloud world. They were working on their own Linux-based Switch operating system. It seems they've really accepted that the cloud is done a little bit differently. So it's cool to see them recognizing OpenBSD as a great security appliance, security-focused operating system, and all the other wonderful qualities that it has. So now we can go out and play with it. I do have an Azure account. I don't use it very much, but maybe it's time to take that for a spin. Yeah,
I've got to fire up. I have a DigitalOcean droplet, and I asked Colin Percival at BSDCan about why use DigitalOcean over EC2 or why use Azure over EC2 and stuff like that. And it was interesting to hear his suggestions for it. But that was mostly related to his particular need.
Okay.
For me, I don't think it makes much difference. It's just all a matter of price or convenience.
Right,
so
yeah.
it boils down to a personal choice.
Whatever works for you, you have experience with, you have scripts for, and costs a reasonable amount. Something like that, anyway. Awesome. All right. Well, it's cool to see that, and good on the OpenBSD project. It's a great operating system, so hopefully that will increase its reach. Okay. Time for the final roundup item. How to track what Congress is doing on the internet.
Yeah, this is ghostware. So basically, after Congress decided that ISPs could sell your data without your permission, this guy decided, well, let's see what Congress is looking at. The IP addresses used for Congress are used by Congress are public. And so what this guy has done is created a plugin that you can use on your website to point out that, hey, look, this IP address is from Congress, and they're reading your blog post, for example. That might be useful to you, but on a global basis, you'd have to get a lot of people digging into this to make this useful. It's useful to an individual. It's not useful on, say, a national basis. You'd need everyone to be using it in order to do that. And there's an issue here where you can't actually give this information out. It's still a privacy issue, but because you're just tracking the entire subnet, there's no privacy issues involved. So if you were to collect all this information together, I can't see there being any privacy issues whatsoever because you can't identify anyone. It's just an IP address from, oh, well, maybe you could identify it. If you could figure out what the IP address belonged to within Congress, maybe you could. But surely they're using NAT.
Yeah,
they're not handing out.
So.
They're not handing out public IPv4 addresses to everyone, are they? Or are they?
I mean, they might be. They might have a big fat allocation they're sitting on, so they could. But you would think that at this day and age, that wouldn't be the default anyway. But who knows? It's interesting. This is an interesting idea. It kind of makes sense that it's ghostware, but it might be interesting to look at.
Yeah. Well, there's a Congress Edits Twitter account.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
And this new thing works similar to that, where there's an automated Twitter account that tweets whenever a Wikipedia page is edited from IP addresses associated with Congress. Someone in Congress is editing this Wikipedia page. That's interesting.
Yes, it is. It's always interesting to see, what you can learn. They get to look at our metadata. Maybe it's only fair that we get to look too, but perhaps not. Anything else you want to add?
Nope.
Okay. Well,
thank you.
I guess that wraps up the show today. It's been wonderful to have you back.
Thank you. Cough and all.
Yeah, cough and all. Hey, allergies affect everyone. Doesn't matter that you're still here. I think this has been a great episode today. In particular, I think an IPv6 deep dive might be something we'll definitely have to do because it's an interesting topic, and I think it would be a natural fit for the show.
If only I knew more about it.
Yeah, I've done some dabbles, so maybe we can prepare some things.
Yep.
I guess that's it for episode 323. This has been TechSNAP, broadcast live on June 13th, 2017. If you'd like to find out more, head on over to jupiterbroadcasting.com. There you'll find the archives, our show. If you go over to /contact, you'll find the contact form. There's also /calendar, which will tell you when we're here live. You can come join the IRC room. It's a lot of fun. You can also find us both on Twitter. I'm at Wes Payne. He is at TechSNAP_Dan. And you can go to techsnap.reddit.com. Thank you very much for viewing, and show up next week. It's going to be a blast. See ya.